Before we get started today, word from our friends at Medallion Racing. We were so happy to do the Preakness show last night. Had a lot of fun with Philip Shelton, Naomi Tucker, and a special guest you'll see when you watch the videos, as well as myself going through the whole Pimlico late pick five. We will start today's show also talking Preakness, but for much more, go there. You'll also get to hear a little bit more about Medallion Racing and their unique approach to thoroughbred partnerships. It's really smart, and I think you're going to want to check it out if you're interested in getting involved on the horse ownership side. And for much more, you can check out medallionracing.com. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show for Friday, May 14th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatale, back with you in the Brooklyn bunker once again. And my co-host for today, not really a co-host, she's only going to be here for the first part of the show, but we'll call her a co-host today. She definitely will be nearly as familiar to viewers as the Joker who usually sits in the other rectangle on the screen across from me, but for very different reasons. Talking about a woman you've seen on television. You picked the network. She's been on it. She is in many ways one of the faces of Southern California racing at the moment. I'm speaking, of course, about Michelle Yu. Michelle, how are you?
Good morning, Pete. How are you?
Things are good. Thank you for getting up early and rocking and rolling and doing this with us. We got you here to talk about our Golden Hour Pick 4 races. But before we get to that, I wanted to get at least a quick word from you about this year's Preakness. You really put a lot of people onto the Derby winner just 2 weeks ago. Let me ask it this way. Do you think in 3 weeks' time, we're going to be talking about Medina Spirit going for, albeit potentially controversial, potential triple crown of sorts? Do you like your horse again this time?
I do like Medina Spirit again this time, but there are some factors stacking up against him. He got a really beautiful, easy lead in the Kentucky Derby. I don't think that's going to be the case in the Preakness. And that's obviously like thing number one. What I do love is the turn back in distance because we know he can get the 1.25 miles. So why not the 1.3 miles? The biggest key, we're going to know right out of the gate, in my opinion, if Medina Spirit's going to win or not. He's got to be on the lead. And, I kind of hammered that home for the Derby and it worked out. Unfortunately, in the Preakness, his stablemate Concert Tour, Bob Baffert has told me all year, Concert Tour is the faster horse. So in theory, that means that Concert Tour, especially breaking from the outside, is going to be able to be in front. But to me, that means he has to break. He's got to clear, and then Medina Spirit sits outside, right? Which I just think is so much going on, especially with Mike Smith on. I know the plan is send. I just feel like this scenario in my head keeps playing out. Medina Spirit breaks, Midnight Bourbon outside him breaks, and Concert Tour breaks, and Mike doesn't rush up and clear. He just sits outside in the clear. And I think if that happens, that Medina Spirit can hold on because we know he's gutty. I'm okay with him taking the pressure and doing the heavy lifting under pressure because I think he's good enough to do that. So we're going to know pretty much right away if this is going to be his ball game or not.
The way you look at the world is, I love it. I love the way you're designing the race in your head. I've had a bunch of different visions of how this could play out. You tell me if I'm crazy or not, because I know you enjoy telling me when you think I'm crazy.
I'm all ears, Pete. Tell me.
Oh, this again. What if a similar scenario happens, but Mike Smith with those instructions in his head to go, what if they end up in not quite a three-way battle, but what if Midnight Bourbon is fast enough and sharp enough to really try to put the sword to Medina Spirit, and that causes Mike Smith to move maybe a little bit early from that 3 wide out in the clear spot? Is there a world in which this race can melt down and we can get some big priced closers up into the number, not even necessarily winning? But that's how I think I'm going to play the race, is to get the likes of Keep Me in Mind and Ron Bauer somewhere with the thought that this thing just heats up beyond what you might think because of the fact that you're dealing with, I believe, 2 horses that need the lead in Concert Tour and Medina Spirit to do their best. And then I also believe you have Midnight Bourbon, who I feel like part of coming back on 2 weeks is We wanted to see what we could do as part of the pace mix. We were bumped. We weren't able to get that position in the Derby, but I kind of think they're going to be hell-bent for leather to go on with it too.
I do think they want to be a little bit more forwardly placed with Midnight Bourbon after that funkily run Kentucky Derby. In all honesty, I just don't think he's fast enough. Like Bob keeps hammering to me, Concert Tour is faster than Medina Spirit. I think they're both faster than Midnight Bourbon. And I think if Irad pushes him, I think that he's just going to probably kind of melt down on his own. The one thing we know about Bafferts is they're not going to melt down, right? They always finish their races. So I wouldn't be too concerned from that aspect of it. But is there going to be heavy pace? Sure. And I do want to kind of clarify, I guess, Medina Spirit doesn't need the lead. What he needs is no one to touch his face. Like, he's like, you're the passenger. I'm the pilot. Don't touch me. Just point me in the right direction and I'm going to do my job. And that was, why I felt like that need the lead type thing. He doesn't have to be in front. If for some reason Concert Tour did go up clear over Medina Spears on the outside, I guess it's okay as long as his reins are flopping. I don't want to see Johnny V take a hold of his reins. I don't want to see what he did with Authentic last year, which was a complete nightmare. I want him to just like throw them away and pretend he doesn't have them. Like hold on to the mane like the Black Stallion instead. That's really what I want to see.
That's fantastic. That could happen if he clears off. It's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
But if Concert Tour, yeah.
Can you see Mike Smith doing that? I know he's like run up the backside on some turf races, but can you see him going like, okay, I'm going to clear all these 4 horses and here I go. Like, I think it's the gig.
I think it's the gig. Taking Joel off to me says they are not looking for any kind of hold on this horse. And I know Mike Smith, he's not known. He's not,
Mike is not a send rider.
No, but like, I think I wonder if the camp isn't thinking about just Justify and saying like, let's just try that. Like, let's just let this horse go and and they think he's so fast that he's going to be able to clear off anyway. If that were to happen and Midnight Bourbon were not able to get that position, they're going to run 1-2 all the way around the track.
Yeah. Then you're talking about a long shot horse picking up pieces. I agree with you about Keep Me in Mind. I think that he's a 1-run type of horse from behind. We had Mark Toothaker on the owner's box this week, and he was like, green lights, double fist, go bet him at the windows. He loves him. I'm like, really? Like, I've never heard that much confidence with him. But hey, why not? And then I thought the other horse that would benefit is Pletcher's horse, Unbridled Honor. He ran second in the Lexington to King Fury in the slop. I don't foresee any rain, which is what I said for Derby, and it looked like it rained like the whole day before, right? He's not fast enough, in my opinion, on paper and stuff, but this is the type of race that could really set up well for him. And like, I feel like I haven't watched a race day yet that Todd Pletcher isn't winning a stake race of some kind.
So who is your top pick holding your feet to the fire?
My top pick is Medina Spirit, but he's going to be a garbage price. So I'm definitely backing him up with pricey horses, including Unbridled Honor. I do not like Ron Bauer in this spot. I know everyone keeps talking about him. I was kind of crazy that they were all talking about him during Derby week, but his lone wins are not on dirt. So if he wins, I would be surprised.
He's melted down. In that meltdown scenario, I really do like him to pick up pieces for 3rd and 4th. I'd have liked him a lot more with Caddo River in the race. Then I would have gone in the full-on meltdown direction and probably been using one like him on top. But you've really laid out a lot of scenarios for how this could play out. From just as a like handicapping form study puzzle, put everything else aside, I think it's an interesting thing to check out. Let's move on though, Michelle, to the Golden Hour races on Saturday. We've had a chance to talk about these every week. I believe they're some of the most horse player friendly bets out there. I know you're a fan as well. The low takeout, the higher minimum, a lot of things that make these, unlike so many other bets in racing, very often you see the pay and you're like, wow, that's really good. As opposed to, always paid that much. So, a lot of things to recommend. We kick things off in race number 9 at Santa Anita on Saturday, 8:20, your scheduled post. We go 6 furlongs on the dirt. Optional claimer 40, first level allowance types. How do you want to get this thing kicked off?
Well, I think that this particular leg is super difficult. Because you look at it and you're like, where do I go? There's actually a ton of speed in here, which kind of hurts my top pick, who is good with people. He's coming out of a 2nd place finish in the Echo Eddie last time out behind the Chosen Vron, who was super impressive for Curljack. Good with people does have some back class to lean on, albeit restricted Calbred and 2-year-old races. My problem with him is he's a 3-year-old against older, so I definitely couldn't single. And I end up looking for a new top play because of the speed with the 4, How Be It for Mark Glatt. I think he can be forwardly placed, but I think he can come from off the pace just fine. I love the turn back in distance. I'm like a complete broken record about this, but this horse just ran 7 furlongs. He hit the front, he ran second. He's cutting back to 6. That gives him the fitness, that gives him the stamina. I love it. I think that is a good spot to come out of. The horse that beat him, Cult Fiction, actually came back to win an open non-condition allowance race where he crushed Brickyard Ride, who folded up like a washed up dollar bill and fell away down the stretch when Posterize actually put pressure to him. So that was a good horse he's, facing last time out that he got beat by. So for me, it's definitely going to be How Be It. If you want to go a little bit deeper, I think the 1, I Will Not, is really intriguing because he's really consistent. And the 2, Explosive for Richard Mandela. I don't love the fact that this horse had to go to Golden Gate to break its maiden. And this is first time versus winner. So this is really only if you're looking at it and you want an extra long shot and he's double digits. I would not play this horse at under double digits. But he does seem to be working really well on the main track. Mandela's good second off the layoff. So he would be my last horse to throw in that particular order of using him. So like using an ABC matrix, right?
Yep, there you go. There you got it down cold. And we've clearly been hanging out too much because I have the exact same 4 numbers as you. If you can believe it.
Well, and let me look. Hold on. Let me see what I can do.
No, it's okay. We're just giving the people what we think. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth with How Be It. The combination of the turn back. Maybe that was a little too far last time. Tricky trip against the flow of the race 2 back. And the race 3 back fits and with the exact pace scenario we're going to see today. I Will Not, I think, makes plenty of sense. Getting back to dirt, the runs 2 and 3 back would just be very competitive. Another that might, I agree about the fast pace, but I think I Will Not might be able to sort of break away running, settle, get the right kind of stalk and pound strip. Good with people. I agree. It might be tricky as the favorite. I don't love, but this horse might prove the best of all that speed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all you need in these spots. And then Explosive was interesting if a big enough price as one that might be able to adjust to today's condition. Let's move up north.
Did you look at Tap Back at all?
Say that again.
Did you look at Tap Back at all?
Very quickly, and I think I basically just decided I don't want to look too long because I'm using too many horses in the beginning of this pick 4 already. But tell us your thoughts.
I had thought the same thing, and then right now I was watching works, and I was just like trying to think, like, could this horse do something? They came off the playoff at like the toughest level that we have, like an optional 62 numbers of 2, right? He didn't have a good trip that day, so you just draw a line through it regardless. And then I saw he had like a flashy work pattern, but this is like where my asterisk comes in for all you guys that are only watching works on paper. You can go to XBTV and you can watch this work. If you watch these works, like this 58 and change work, this horse is being scrubbed along, assed along, and he's not really finishing as well as I want. He's not stopping, but you can definitely see why he went as fast as he did. And while it's talented to be able to go 58 and change, I just thought it was like a false good work. So I just wanted to throw that out there as something you should go and double check into.
I think that's probably as good of a plug as XBTV has ever gotten. We'll give them permission to take it out of the video here and tweet it. At the end of the day, I feel like if you're gonna go as deep as Tap Back, you probably have to really take a stand and go against a horse like Good with People. Right. And maybe that's the way my opinion will evolve. At the end of the day, do you want to include Tap Back in the mix, or you want to stand against?
I was kind of giving an asterisk to people that were going to be lured in by the flashy works on paper.
Gotcha. Okay.
I just recommend watching them yourself.
Gotcha. You certainly get a lot more, I think, value anytime you can put your own subjective opinion in, whether that's evaluating a trip, whether that's looking at horses in the paddock, or whether that's evaluating works. It's one of the only things that we can do, I feel like, to give us an edge really in a market that's pretty darn efficient and where computers are doing so much of the thinking. It's one of the reasons why I love having you on, your combination of different skills with the horse back, the proper, horseman background, the ability to handicap on paper, and then the ability to watch these things and tell us how they look for real.
It's for the ASMR.
I did get the tingles. Again. Let's talk about Golden Gate Fields, Michelle. Race number 8. We're on the all-weather going 6. fillies and mares, 12-5 claimers down to 10-5, non-winners of 2 lifetime. I wasn't terribly creative in here, so I'll go first, and then hopefully we'll get some good disagreement in this one. But I'm not sure because it looked pretty fairly straightforward to me. Always dangerous to say on the synthetic, but I thought the 5 Macy Joe had a possible pace edge. There's a lot of runners you can make a case for, but I definitely wanted some Macy Joe in the mix, and I felt like I needed to have the 4 Truly Fabulous as well for the powerhouse Jonathan Wong barn. Appears to have improved in form for the new trainer, and I was just envisioning a good forward sit from Truly Fabulous as well. I wasn't sure if the ones coming from further back were going to be able to get involved, but of course on synthetic, sometimes I think that, and then it's the horses that were last and second to last early who end up in the exacta. Michelle, who did you like in this Golden Gate race?
So first of all, it's a non-winners of 2 other than, because maiden, claiming, and starter races for 10 or less not considered. So it's not a straight non-2. So I always look at that particular, thing when you're looking at the N2X. So my top pick is actually going to be the 2 DG for Isidro Tamayo, who just wins hand over fist.
Not a hunch play for you?
Nope, it's not, but I just like this horse. The class drop down obviously is very nice, right? I love a nice class drop. This horse has been running against the 20 non-winners of 2 other than, coming in for the 12-5 non-winners of 2 other than. The race 2 back where she was second, for Grin and Ear to Ear. Grin and Ear to Ear is a super fast horse. I just thought that race was really good. And I think that there actually should be enough speed for her to close into. So she's my top pick. I agree with you on Macy Joe for Reed France first off the claim here. She's another one. She's got the 3 lifetime wins instead of just the 2 lifetime wins under her belt. So I like her. And if you have room for a Wong, for me, it's the other Wong, the one True Friend. She's won 2 in a row against much easier, right? 5,000 non-winners of 2, non-winners of 3. But I like the fact that she's been working at Golden Gate for Jonathan Wong, who went out of town to claim her. Jonathan Wong he's a really good claiming guy. He wins at like 50%. I'm not even exaggerating. It's 37% first off the claim. Okay. So he's a really good claiming guy, and he's going here and plucking a horse. He's going here and plucking a horse, and he's going here and plucking a horse, and he's bringing them all over here. Forwardly placed from the rail. If he's going to step her up, and he must like what he's seeing from her, I think that she's really intriguing. If you want to add a Wong, I like her.
I wasn't exactly sure how she was going to class up, but you're making a very compelling case to make sure you get a line or 2 at least running through a True Friend in that spot.
I'll make you feel better. She could be thrown in here as like a rabbit to the wolves to set up for his 4. There's always that case, but I like to look at the longer shot Wong.
Yeah, you certainly see them enough. One day I want to do like a proper numerical study on that longer half of uncoupled entries. And you'll see some signal in it, I bet. And with certain barns more than others, ones that are more interested in the team tactics, apparently. But anyway, that's for another time. We'll get, if there's a data nerd out there who has some free time and wants to help with that project, at Looms Boldly on Twitter, or hit me up through inthemoneypodcast.com. Let's head back down south, Michelle, though, to your stomping grounds are all over California at this point. But, I think of Santa Anita. I think of you.
Home. That is so nice. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
Well, there you go. See, that's what happens when I make you wake up in the middle of the night to do these podcasts. At least I'll say something nice.
I see the sun is starting to peak up right now.
8:51 Eastern is the scheduled post time for the 6.5 furlong turf race. Interesting looking maiden special weight affair. Kick us off, Michelle. Who do you like in here?
I like the 2 Harbored Memories for Mike Pipey, who has been firing at all cylinders. I think Mike does a great job with this horses. This horse has run 3 consecutive runner-up finishes, but let's take a look at who he's been being beat by. Let's see. He was second, only beaten a length to Rock Your World. I think you guys all remember him, right?
And can run a little.
And then he was second to Dream Shake next time out on the main track.
He's also okay.
Yeah, he was feeling one of the Pat miles. Good. And then last time out, tried the route. So what do we get here? Everyone say it together. A turn back in distance from the flat mile to the 6.5 furlongs. You guys are learning. This is exciting. I think he's been working really well. He taps Valdivia, who's been on this horse, and Valdivia has actually been riding extremely well the last couple of weeks. When we have big race days and a lot of the big, our big name riders, Flavian Pratt and Umberto Rispoli and Mike Smith go out of town, that gives a lot of opportunities for some of our other guys to pick up good mounts. You can't necessarily hate on a rider when they're just getting 50-1 shots every single day, right? So I think Valdivia does a good job with the horses that he's provided, but especially the last couple of weeks that the guys have been out of town, he has been riding really well. So I like Harbored Memories in here. I think that he's a really nice colt. I also think that Aurelian Man is definitely playable for Doug O'Neill. He's going to be stretching out in distance. He should be forwardly placed towards the outside. So I like him, and he's 8-1. So, he should be a decent enough price to have. And then I think that the two first-time U.S. horses are the horses I'm going to look at. The 3 Lincoln Hawk for Richie Baltus, and then the 7 New Park for Jeff Mullins. Now, I did want to use New Park before I even watched Works, but after I watched his last work, I really liked it. It was 101 and change, so not very fast on paper, and automatically people just think, oh, it's because, it's a turf horse and he was on the main track. But if you watch the work, he was actually super wide. He had really great energy the entire work, and while he did run turfy with some high knees, he finished really nice. I liked that work a lot. That was a work that is much better than it appears on paper. And I will also say that for the 3 Lincoln Hawk. For me originally, Pete, I was going to chuck this horse out. His 2 synthetic races were much better than his turf races, and I was thinking he's just going to need one. I'm not very impressed. So originally, he was not a use for me. And I was watching Works. I watched his last work, that 102, which just looks dismal, and you're like, I don't want that horse on my ticket, right? He outworked Next Shares, who's a multiple graded stakes winner. He's a grade 1 winner. They're going around the training track. He's on the inside, like he's supposed to be the rabbit for Next Shares, right? And Next Shares comes right to him, and this colt never lets him by. Down the lane, Next Shares is lugging into him, bumping him, and Lincoln Hawk's just like, oh, I'm going to keep my head in front with his little ears pinned. And he just looks so cute. Even on the gallop out, they go around again, and he's still in front. So all of a sudden, my whole entire life got turned upside down because now I have to use Lincoln Hawk.
Should be a good price, I would think.
I hope so.
Based on the known form, and that's a fantastic note about seeing that kind of courage in the workout. Very often, I don't pay attention too much to dirt works for turf horses, but when you can see some element like that suggests the horse is doing well in the new environment, particularly. I'm definitely going to be throwing in on your say-so. I was with you on Harbored Memories. You made the case very well. The biggest thing for me is just feel like that last race was better than it looked. Attacking a fast, little bit wide on a day when I thought the ground loss mattered. And then you mentioned the cutback. It seems like an ideal candidate for that. I was also going to use Doncic, and I wanted to get your thought on this runner. I mean, the eye-catching $100,000 claim, and this one on paper looks to have worked well since. I was curious if you had anything to say about Doncic. Those were going to be the 2 for me, but I am going to obviously give a bunch of extra consideration to the ones you mentioned, especially Lincoln Hawk.
Doncic was actually one of my top picks originally before I started watching workouts, and maybe I've led myself astray, but like you said, they picked him up for $100. When they had him, Andrew Lerner's the one that had him when he ran him for the $100,000 tag. They knew right away that this horse was getting claimed because he had been working too well in the mornings. He was very impressive, and they were hoping obviously for a win. They didn't get that because Barraza just had some extra foundation into him. But he looked really good on debut. He had worked well going into that race. He has worked well since. The interesting thing for me is that Sadler opts to move him onto grass. Now, he has enough of a turf pedigree being by Cairo Prince. He's out of a broken bow mare. So both of those names will say, okay, grassy, but he just ran well enough on the turf or on the dirt. I was thinking, and he worked great on the dirt. I'm just thinking I wonder why they're putting him on the turf. And it's not like they drew a super easy small field on the grass. They got a super tough field, a big one on the grass. So I've kind of just steered myself around him, but would not talk anybody off of him because he was super well intended from the get-go. And that being said, he got beat by a Baffert that I don't love at all in Barraza.
Okay. Fair points. And it is, it's unusual to see that, right? $100,000 claim, the surface. There's a lot going on with the horse. For me, at the end of the day with Doncic, it's really just going to come down to price. This is a horse that I wouldn't be touching in the win pool sub 6-1, but if you can get close to the morning line, 8-1, 10-1, one I would definitely want to keep on side. Let's move up north to wrap this thing up. Race number 9 at Golden Gate, 9:06 Eastern, 6 on the all weather for these 3 and ups. This one is a non-winner or 2 lifetime condition attached, claiming 12 down to 10-5. Michelle, how are we going to get paid?
I just used 2 horses in here. I'm super Captain Obvious. Just wipe the chalk right off of my hands. I like the 2 Galloping Mischief.
Now, I gave JK the day off, hoping we'd get some big bombs here, and now you're going to give us the chalk exacta, which of course I'm going to agree with you about. But anyway,
right. JK was on the phone. He told me if I got too many prices in there that he'd be after me. So
okay, fair enough.
Galloping Mischief, even though he hasn't won a race in a while, he's now under the care of Wong. I love the fact that he has local works on the main track. I'm a big proponent of that, especially for quirky tracks, to have a work or a race over the surface. And Galloping Mischief has been working very well. This is a horse that I remember him on debut when he broke his maiden. He's like a little guy, and he just won with such authority. And unfortunately, he just never followed that up with a subsequently good effort. But he's in here for an all-time low now. And maybe he'll really like the surface and it'll move him forward. So I did use him. And then I used the 3 Elusive Love for Jack Steiner. Again, the class drop situation here, I think could be forwardly placed. And unlike that last race where I felt like there was plenty of speed, I felt like there was not a ton of confirmed speed in here. We have a lot of like pace pressers. And I would not mind to see Elusive Love out on the lead. I think that would actually bode really well for him.
Okay, so 2, 3 for you. I actually have a different topic. I mean, I totally agree.
Juggles, right?
I'm going to use Juggles, and I'll tell you my case, and then you can argue with me about it.
No, just kidding.
I felt like Juggles looked like the best speed. I felt the class drop was significant, and the digging around in the pedigree. This dam, I mean, did not win on Synth, but ran on it a lot, and probably ran that best race on Synth, the being stakes place at the listed level at Dundalk. So I was just thinking, if Juggles moves up at all on the Synth in a race where I agree there's not a ton of speed, I just felt like the trip was going to be great. I feel like Galloping Mischief, I'm going to use them pretty much equally because I do think that's the best closer with the Wong factor. But what was your thought on Juggles?
So my thing with Juggles wasn't against the horse necessarily. It's just that looking at the horses that ship up for Doug, he sent up a lot of horses that on paper look like they should do well. And I would say that he hasn't turned around with as many wins as I wanted him to. A lot of horses are running well. They're finishing on the board. They're just not winning. And I think a lot of that is because they don't have local works up there. He's shipping them out of here. They're going up to, Northern California, and they're, running off their Santa Anita foundation, but they haven't been over the synthetic up there. So it's a very tiring surface. It runs differently than Santa Anita does. It, uses different muscles. Anytime you go dirt to synthetic, it's a big difference in fitness standards, how fit you are. So just because of that, I decided to play against, because I knew he would get hammered off the big class drop.
Yeah, that's a great point. And at a short number, maybe, I'm definitely going to think about throwing your 3 in there as well. We'll see how the tickets all shake out. But I mean, as somebody who follows both circuits a day in, day out, as opposed to me, I mean, I obviously look at Golden Gate plenty, but not to the degree that you do. That's some good, the kind of institutional knowledge we like to pass on, and one of the things that we love to have you on for. Before I let you go, I do want to talk about the owner's box for a minute. You guys have been doing such a great job over there. Mark, who you had on this week from Spendthrift, always a great interview, very opinionated, outspoken, which is always the best person to have for a podcast guest. Do you guys have any special plans coming up, and any guests to highlight, or what can we expect from the owner's box over the next several weeks?
We don't plan. Anytime we try and plan, people cancel on us. They forget. We send them like reminders, and then they're like, "Oh, I've taught something else to do. I'm on the vacation or whatever." And it was like, we've had this set up for weeks. So Billy and I don't plan. Literally, like Monday night, we're like, "Who should we get?" Sometimes Tuesday morning, we're like, "Who should we get?" So while we might have like ideas, they just, a lot of times we don't call them till that morning. We were supposed to have George Krikorian on this last week, and then George Krikorian fell through. So again, the planning does not work for us. So for your viewers, for my viewers, for us, it is a surprise at who shows up on the owner's box. And that being said, we are super fortunate at the quality of guests that we are able to get.
It's been an unreal run. I mean, this recent run, envy of every, any and every horse racing podcast. People who don't appear on podcasts come on the owner's box. And the other point I want to make specifically to this audience, which is, we have a mix of people from the industry and horse players. But horse players, you're going to learn something when you can hear owners at this level, really at any level, but especially at the level who are appearing on the owner's box, and they're telling you their thought processes. When you go and you look through the PPs and you can start trying to tell yourself the story of the horse and why horses are appearing in different places, especially with private purchases or claims, you can't help but learn something that's going to help you as a horse player. It's not just for industry people, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's totally fascinating. Some of the angles that people come up with that, I don't even think of, or you don't, know about. And then all of a sudden you do. And the stories about behind horses obviously makes you like them or hate them more. I mean, just depending on your outlook. So I think it's great.
You don't hate anybody, Michelle. Who are you kidding? You're all sweetness and light, sunshine and rainbows over there.
Sunshine and rainbows. That's totally me. I'm going to make a shirt that says that.
The next item in the Michelle Yu fashion line.
Though, some people say no. Like we had Gary Barber a few weeks ago. He has told me no for like 4 years. So it was such a surprise to have him on. I literally jaw on the floor, peed my pants, didn't know what to do. I was scrambling. I was in awe.
There is a video of that, I hope.
Yes, there is me running to the bathroom on the phone, then putting the mute button so you can't hear me pee. And I've been trying to get the owners of Bauer on 4 different times now, and they don't want to come on. He's like, "Oh, I don't want to anger the racing gods," and I'm like, "One day you have to come on the show." So if Bauer runs well, he's going to come on too. So that's a preview. And
I think you bad mouthing his horse is probably not going to help the chances of booking the guy. If I'm being honest,
I think the horse is nice. I just think he's nicer on synthetic or turf. That's all. Isn't that fair? I mean,
totally
if
fair.
they're running Medina Spirit on the turf right now, I'd be like, I don't know, guys. I'm just not sure.
Michelle, where can we find more from you?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Michelle Yu. You can obviously listen to the Owner's Box. We generally post that every Wednesday morning right here on In the Money. It's also on our social media. And of course, any racing day, I am at Santa Anita Park. You can catch me on the simulcast feed.
Good stuff. Can't wait to see you soon. Can't wait to hang out with you soon. Cheers, my friend. When you're watching a sporting event on TV or maybe a talk show, and at the end of the show, there's these credits, and one of the things says so-and-so's wardrobe furnished by whomever. Well, today's wardrobe, my one-time T-shirt, furnished by our friends at oldsmokeclothing.com. We got a whole line of stuff over there, including the chalk-eating weasel shirt, the degenerate horse player shirt. I got to find mine. I'm not quite sure where it is, as well as our collab with TRF, the I Won and So Did They, that comes with a $75 donation baked in. Go check these out. Oldsmokeclothing.com is the main website, but the easiest way to find our stuff is to use our pretty link, inthemoneypodcast.com/oldsmoke. Support us there and stay tuned for information about the next item in the JK clothing line. Who wore it better? Probably Michelle Yu. But when the next shirt comes out, you're going to probably want to get a hold of that. I've seen some mock-ups of the new JK designs on there, and they are simply put quite awesome. So go to inthemoneypodcast.com/oldsmoke. Very excited to have joining me now from what appears to be the parking lot, maybe on the backside at Pimlico, coming to us to talk about this weekend's Preakness as well as the JRA races this weekend. Returning to our airwaves, Kate Hunter, a.k.a. Kaba Kate. Kate, how are things? And am I guessing right about where you're located?
Actually, no. I'm behind a laundromat. I'm doing...
Getting stuff done.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
exactly.
that makes perfect sense. But you have been to the backside today. What did you see over there?
We took Franz Godina out and had for a little walk while we cleaned the stall, and he's looking very good condition. So we're very happy
awesome.
with him.
We talked a little bit. You hinted at this when you were on before, that there might be a Japanese raider for this year's Triple Crown races, which we have in the form of Franz Godina. And I want to talk about this horse. Let's start as a 2-year-old. Races that looked really, really impressive. Seemed like a horse that might have the type of quality to come and compete in races like this. When did he, as far as you know, when did the idea come up that this would be a horse pointed to racing in the United States?
Well, pretty much from the get-go, Mr. Mori is always looking for horses that he can take overseas, and most of those purchases luckily come either at Keeneland, which I work for, so it's always good to have a good client like him. But also, he also buys horses from the training sale and things like that. So he loves his U.S. bred horses, and so a lot of them he always has in mind the Breeders' Cup and the Triple Crown and just and Dubai and Saudi Arabia. So he's really focused on participating in international racing.
Now, obviously, the race in Dubai did not go as planned. What happened there, and what do you think gave Connections faith that it still made sense to pursue an ambitious target like this one?
Well, in Dubai, he missed the break, and whether that was due to lack of a gate boy or the fact gate boy, their assistant starters were in the gate and they kind of freaked him out a little bit, we're not sure. But he has botched starts before. But you botch a start in Japan, the dirt racing's fairly slow, so at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. You can usually catch up and you're fine. You can't get away with that on a traditional dirt surface like in the United States or in Dubai, and so it really, really ruined my Kentucky Derby plans. Because I had already been dreaming big there. I had all the paperwork spread out and I was filling in forms. I was ready to go. But then those gates open. It's like, oh, well, there it goes. He ran up so well. He got up to sixth. He did show some guts and show some initiative in the race to try. So I felt that, if the trainer felt that the horse comes out of the race in good condition, he's Triple Crown nominated. That means there's 2 other crowns to go for.
Fair enough. And what have you seen from him since to think that maybe these gate issues are a thing of the past, or is it something you're actively worried about for this weekend?
Well, we're going to take him to the gate tomorrow and have him stand in the gate and maybe break from it, just kind of like open it up and have him jump out a little bit. So he's used to having someone stand there, because even the assistant starters in Dubai versus the United States are done a little bit differently. So just kind of get him used to it. Once he sees it, he should be fine. He's a real smart horse. And we've got Rosario again. So Rosario already had him on the bad start, so we know he'll be able to. He'll know what to look for.
That makes sense, and especially coming off the start in the Derby for Rosario too. I think he's going to be particularly conscious of the break come this race. What happened the other day on the track? There was a little bit of an incident with France Coatney out there, but it seemed like horse and rider were fine. But I was just curious what you attributed that to.
Well, the horse was breezing. It's typical in Japan for horses to breeze before a race on Wednesday. And he was moving along beautifully. And as the rider was shifting his weight to go from the breeze to kind of the gallop out, he lost his balance and slipped and fell. It looked a lot worse, and luckily it was. He's fine. He's actually sitting next to me on the in the car.
That's amazing. A cameo.
So hi. he's fine. He's alive.
He looks good. He looks embarrassed more than anything else by us talking about this, perhaps on the show. Apologies. We're just happy horse and rider are okay. That's all that really matters. And
the horse took care of himself. He did a really good job, because in most of the American horses they run, and he actually he pulled himself up and stopped. So. He saved the rest of the week by not running himself out yesterday.
I mean, that's probably a good sign, I think, in terms of like mental state, and to be able to handle a big challenge like this, to have a good mind for the horse. Mm-hmm. That's something that probably shouldn't be underestimated. How do you evaluate France Coatney's chances come this Preakness?
Well, I think it'll all depend on the start for him, and if we get the kind of start that we want, where he will be. I don't know if there's some pretty good pace in this race, so whether we'll be on the front, but he's come off the pace before. So as long as we get a good position where he's got plenty of room to move and go, we're very hopeful that we'll get at least something that will kick us forward onto the Belmont.
All right. Well, we're going to be following that story with interest. To be a great storyline for this year's Preakness. If this Japanese raider can make a little bit of an impact and show his good form, which he had as a 2-year-old on the racetrack in Baltimore on Saturday. While I have you, Kate, I want to talk to you a little bit about the JRA races Saturday night. I imagine you're still pretty plugged in. One thing I wanted to mention to players is that there's actually a Pick 5 carryover in our North American pools. Over 8,000 going to be added into those. We're going to have full coverage over on InTheMoneyPodcast.com with Klaus. Ebner has been doing a fantastic job covering it. He's given out a few of these Pick 5s, but I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the big race and any early thoughts you might have on it.
Well, I think in many ways it kind of boils down to the 2 big fillies. You got Gran Alegria, and then you've got Resistencia. So those 2 fillies, I think, are really going to be going head to head here. you've got Grant Allegria. She was on the top of her game last year. She was just knocking home runs left and right, Grand Slam style. She was amazing. Like, she might have kind of deserved Horse of the Year last year, with what she did. She started off the year kind of badly in the Osaka high, but in the race it was a bog that day, and Deep Impacts are not known for their ability, even though Deep Impact won the race, are not known for their ability to really handle that surface. And so she kind of lived up to that moniker, so to speak. So having her probably having a nice firm ground, I think she'll run a lot better. Coming off this other filly, she's got a lot of speed. She can obviously handle, a sprint or a mile. So these are going to be two very fast fillies closing in there, and it should be a really fun race to watch.
Any thought of any others who might potentially be able to make an impact against those two up at the top of the market, or are you really looking at this like more of a match?
Yes, there were two, and I don't have my notes with me in the car. One of them was Magic Castle, and the other one was hang on a second.
I love this. It's great.
If I see the form, I'll know exactly what it is. So hang on a second. I apologize.
No, I'm enjoying it. We're used to various loosey goosey stuff here on the show, and to make sure we get all the details in there, we'll take a minute so we can get it.
Okay, so Magic Castle was second in the Shuka show, which was 2,000 meters. And then she was first in another 2,000 meter race and second in a mile race last time out, the Hanshin Himba Stakes. Now that's between a mile and 2,000 meters. And if she draws wide in particular, a mile at Tokyo tends to run like 1,800 meters. So that would be just in her sweet spot. So I have a feeling that she also tends to kind of come from behind, and Tokyo is perfect for those kind of horses, because the stretch is like 500 meters. It's so long. So there's a lot of time for a really good closer to catch anybody on the lead or anyone close to the lead, like you'd see Gran Allegria and Resistencia, I would imagine. And the next one was...
I'll just chime in, Kate, for those that don't follow the metric stuff as well. The idea being 1,800 meters being farther than 1,600 meters, that the idea that stamina maybe comes into play a little bit more, which I think people probably understood from the context. But yeah, whole 1,600 meters is a mile thing might soar over the heads of some of our USA compatriots here.
Oh, and the next one was Blooming Alley. I thought she's another one that can kind of come from behind a little bit, and her past two starts. One of them was in a Group 3 of a 2,000 meters. She came in second to Magic Castle, and so she was first in the Nakayama Himba Stakes back in March. That was 1,800 meters. So I think that she's another one that would probably really enjoy the long stretch there. So I think those two fillies coming from behind, while the other two more famous Group 1 winning fillies will be more forwardly placed. I could see any of those four easily hitting the top three.
It should be another great night. And again, we're going to have lots more coverage over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Be able to get your own past performances, do some handicapping yourself, joining in on the conversation on Twitter. If you have any interest at all in Japanese racing, you've got to be following Kate Hunter. Really appreciate you taking time out from what's obviously an insanely busy week. And we wish you and your charge there Godspeed this Saturday with Francisco de Ina. Next up on the show, extremely happy to have back a man who we haven't seen in quite some time, but I have a feeling, God willing and the creek don't rise, we're going to be seeing a lot more of him as the season goes on. You may associate him with Woodbine and the fine work he's done handicapping for them, but he handicaps all over the country, including Lone Star Park. So happy to be partnering with Lone Star Park this season, doing these segments on their racing Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, highlighting their low takeout pick 5. Also really psyched to see their big race day, which comes up in just a couple of weeks' time over Memorial Day weekend. Contest players, you're going to want to check out the 3 different events that they have, and horse players everywhere. The stakes-laden card that weekend is something that you're going to want to be paying attention to. For more on them, check out LoneStarPark.com. And welcome to the In the Money airwaves, Drew Coatney. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. A great morning here on Black Eyed Susan Day. So we're excited to see some racing this afternoon and bet Lone Star Saturday.
I like it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Why not? We got Spencer and John Pinder popped up their show for Friday. I think we're going to have Nick Tamaro again hosting for Sunday. It should be fun. And I figure, given that you are in the money business manager, you didn't mind at all my working a little ad read into your intro there. And I promise I will have those TPS reports on your desk by Monday.
Fantastic. No, I always appreciate a company man and a man who works for the people. So you're doing all bases are covered here for us.
Let's talk about Lone Star Park's 6th race, which kicks off this pick 5 on Saturday. 4:55 Eastern is the scheduled post time. 7 furlongs on the dirt. We've got Texas breds, maiden 7,500s down to 62.50. Drew, how do you see this one? I'll sneak preview. I'm pretty boring here.
Yeah, right. I think the number 1 on the rail is your kind of logical. I can imagine 1 to 9 here, especially showing that can go the longer distance. This isn't the full, I think the 1 1/8. I'm not looking at my DRF right now, but this one is the logical one. But I think it's going to be a complete stagger fest at the end. And Prince Perfect, the number 4, might be able to juice up this pick five for us. The last time out, the front runners were just a little too far ahead, and it didn't come back to this one. So maybe today sits off it and gets that set up. And I have a great stat. This trainer going 7 furlongs flat has a $2.82 ROI with like a sample size of over 100. And when you go into maiden claimers, the sample size drops to 31, but your ROI goes up to $3.07 with a 25% win percentage. So can't really go wrong there with that type of stat when we're going to have a 1 to 9 to kick this thing off, if we can try and beat that one. So my 2 A's will be the number 1 on the rail and the number 4 Prince Perfect.
You want the 1 listed as your top pick? I feel like when you make a case that clever for the 4, I'm tempted to call it 4-1, but you tell me.
Correct, 4-1, yeah.
And for those wondering, that stat to me, I don't think there's a chance. Obviously, all stats, there's a chance it's randomness, but I feel like 7 furlongs is kind of a unique. I say kind of a unique, which is a ridiculous phrase, the kind of thing JK would say, and I'd make fun of him for. It is a unique configuration, but it has some components in particular that I feel like a trainer's skill might help for. That idea of it being between, the idea where you need horses fast enough to sprint that still have that stamina. Like I'm interested in that argument, and we'll take a longer look at number 4. I just thought it was a lockup with Sassafras the 1 and Tenacious Lion the 3. Nothing clever here, folks. Best figs early and final. And one thing I'll say is I didn't see all that much point in trying to split them, which means, I guess, technically speaking, I'd call myself 3-1 because I do agree that the 3 will be a considerably bigger price than the 1. So that's how we see it in Lone Star 6th. We'll move on to Lone Star 7th race at 5:23 Eastern. We move to the turf for 1 1/16. We've got nice looking little allowance race in this spot. I'm going to just go ahead again because my case in this race, even though it's a completely different type of race, not dissimilar to what I said in the last one. There's 2 horses here who I feel like can prove the best at the early part of the race and have the best final numbers. And those 2 are Sunlit Song and Governale. I'll give a preference to the 7 Sunlit Song, just very strong on figures and form. And this is just one of those PP cuts that, impress you as a horse player. Fires every time. Handy, but versatile. Some eye-catching works. I'm going to be pressing up the 7 and then the 2 or the 3, excuse me. I'm not sure how they actually pronounce the name. I'm going to let the Italian-American in me say Governale. Coming out clearly second best on numbers, 1 to back up with. That's how I see it. Drew, how about you?
Yeah, I don't know about that Governale there. My West Virginia roots might come out, and your Italian roots come out. So we'll go both sides of this one. But I think the number 3 is logical for the points you've listed. I'm going to be against the number 7. I just think continues to get a good trip from time to time again. I know Last Out broke out through the gate and still proved best, but I just think it's a bad favorite. So I like the number 3 on top, but I have 2 backups. The number 1 Gambler tried to chase down a loose leader going widest of all last time and got a complete terrible trip. And today should be sitting in the pocket with what appears to be not a ton of speed. So they shouldn't be able to get too far away. So with race luck, the number 1 Gambler for me at 12 to 1. And then number 4 Rotation kind of has that 3 back. If you look at that race 3 back ago, was left like well behind early and made a move to establish early position and then made another wide move to get only gunned out by an inside trip type of horse. Those are the type of horses I like to bet back as well. needs to jump up a little bit in the figure department, but I'm going to go with those three. And if my budget allows, I'll play the number 7 defensively, but I think you're going to get a lot of value going with the number 3, the 1, and the 4. So in that order, Pete, it's 3, 1, 4, and my A's are the 3 and the 1, and the 4 is a B.
Let's go ahead. We'll do a little head-to-head. We didn't prep for this. We'll do a little head-to-head. I really like Sunlit Song. Rather than, continue to re-argue the merits of a horse who's going to probably be 6-5. I mean, to reflexively be against 6-5s is not always a bad thing. So, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But I will say I think we should do like a $20 head-to-head Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation donation on this one. I get Sunlit Song and you get the field. How about that?
Okay, done. Easy. That's an easy. Everyone wins in this bet.
There you go. And of course, I like to mention this from time to time. Anybody... people have asked sometimes, let me buy you a drink. Let me do this. You guys gave us this winner. That's cool. I'm not going to say no, but I mean, really the best thing to do if you ever get any piece of actionable info on the show that leads you to hit a bet and you want to give something back, give to our friends over at the TRF, trfinc.org/players. And right now we even have that promo going on with our new bottle of whiskey, the apple brandy finished rye, which is delicious. And if you give them enough of a gift, we'll send you that as a gift free of charge. So something to think about in terms of our friends over at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. Let's move on to race number 8 on the Saturday, getting into evening card now on the East Coast anyway. 5:51 Eastern, 6.5 on the dirt. $20,000 claimers down to 15, non-winners of 2 lifetime. Drew, how are we going to get through this leg?
Yeah, I like the number 1, Chris's Wildcat on the rail. Last out, going too short, dropped way back, and tried to make one run at him and just couldn't get the job done. Today, second start for the trainer. I think this one is going to tower over this field, stay in touch with the field a little bit better, as 2 back ago at Santa Anita showed can hang with them, and should be able to get the perfect trip. So I'm kind of lone A. I have some backups, but I'll let you talk about them first.
We're in the same boat on this one. I mean, Chris's Wildcat to me just has to be included based on the trip that's likely on offer here. I don't necessarily trust at too short odds, so I am going to mix in some other prices. I did have Chris's Wildcat listed on top, though. Flat Out Avenger, I thought was a little bit interesting on the body of work. Unlucky, really, to me, to have not won more races if you go back through. An unlucky head defeat here, a move too early and barely beat there. This horse back in for a tag with a fast pace to help him out. I definitely want. And then I was also going to use a little 10 Rue Garou. Just looks to have the fastest pace figures. On that basis alone, in a race like this, I wanted to use on some tickets. So I was going to call it 1, 8, 10, and I wasn't going to split them much. Who do you want in here as a backup?
Oh my God, I need to stop wearing my glasses because I think you're reading my screen because I go 8, 10, and the only thing I can add to that is to use a backup of the number 9 Euro East. It was kind of wide intending the pace with the top choice that I have today. And it jumped back up to that old form. So there might be another step in this one's progression still. Yeah. In a bunch that, anything can happen. I think you're good, well-to-do to use a little bit of the number 9 Euro East, 5-10% of your money going through. Nothing huge, but still could get back to that old form that is competitive with this.
I like that case a lot. Second off the very long layoff. It was 319 days, now back in 14. And I mean, yes, 1 for 23 lifetime and actually going up in class, but what do you want for a 20-1, a 20-1 shot in a maiden claimer? Their paper isn't pretty. So anytime you can make any kind of case like that, you can, this isn't the Breeders' Cup where you can find good paper 20-1 shots. So
sometimes you can find out the trainer intention by watching replays. Because if my memory serves right, go back and fact check me here on this audience. But if my memory serves right, the jockey knew that this was kind of a, we're out here to prep up and get ready because it's been almost a year. So let's go through the motions again. Let's figure out how to do this. And then let's bring it back for the real thing in a short-term time. So why not go out there for the paid workout, sort of? Obviously, they didn't make any money on it, but, may as well try.
Let's move on to race number 9, Drew. 6:19 Eastern on the dirt, 6.5, 3 and up maiden special weights. And I think I'm ready to start playing against 5 Dreams after the flop at 1-5 last time out. There were 2 that I had my eye on. Made the top pick number 1, Say It Ain't Sunny, improved for dirt. that was a race where the speed held really well. And this horse stuck on a little bit. I thought is one that could improve second time out. And then I was going to mention one that needs some imagination, the 9, Chucky's Chance. I thought this horse could fit with these despite the big jump up from Maiden Claiming Company, because this is another one of those things where, yes, that looks ugly and tricky, but at the same time, you're going to be compensated in price. I feel like this horse, after catching money first time out and ending up looking a little bit short, could improve as a second time starter. I was going to try it 1-9, was going to go against the 8, 5 Dreams. Do you think I'm making a mistake taking on this favorite?
I kind of was putting to you, when you see a horse that just can't seem to pass at the very end and is bet so hard and burning so much money, I mean, how can you take it at that price? And the one I'm surprised you didn't mention, as I watch your replay of that 9 going wide last out, trying to close into what looks to be like a little bit of a slow pace. I think that's a good play right there. But the one I'm surprised you didn't mention here, as I was multitasking, was the number 7 Summer Splash, the American Thoroughbred, coming out here for Brett Calhoun. I think that one will be interesting, but everything else I've agreed with you. My numbers would be the 1, 7 as A's, and I'm going to throw the backup in as the 9 as a B.
Okay, I did take a long look at Summer Splash, and I think I ultimately just decided I didn't have much to say. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no reason, if your ticket can afford it, to use this live-looking first-time starter. It certainly has it on pedigree and goes out for winning connections. I guess I was worried maybe overbet on the superficial, and I just knew nothing about the horse. But if I can afford it, there'll be some Summer Splash in there as well. It's one of those things where, especially if we think 5 Dreams is going to go off at odds on, it would be silly. You know, we're not going to have the signal of the tote to tell us if this 7 is live, and I'm going to feel really rotten. You'll know, you have a chance to know 20 minutes before the race that you're sunk, or you would have bet your ticket completely differently if this thing opens up at 2-1 into the teeth of that favorite. So I may try to have a couple lines with the 7 on it as well. Let's move on to the last race we're going to talk about, Drew. Lone Star Park, race number 10, 7:20 Eastern, 5 furlongs on the turf for this first level allowance race. How are we going to get paid?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of speed of pretenders on the inside, and I think that's going to play a little difficult for some. So I'm looking to the outside. I'm going with the number 9, Super Brady on top. I think he's going to get that perfect second flight wide trip that won't get stopped, and continue to carry on home. And the other A backup that I'll be using is the number 7, Reverendage, who I think could get another step forward after that long layoff. So kind of second off the break for this one. Not creative, but I want to get skinny here, because I think if you start to dive deeper, you're going to start diluting your equity investment. So the number 9 and the 7 for me. Where are you going?
It's very interesting that you say that, because my first reckoning of the race, my first pass through, I did have 5 numbers, and it just felt like that wasn't, we're far from the EV police over here, but it just felt like a ticket that wasn't going to be efficient. So I decided I was going to dial down 2, and the 2 numbers I came up with, we have the same top one. Super Brady, I feel like, is just going to get the perfect stalk and pounce trip. And you talk about that wide. Some people might be like, wide, isn't that bad? Well, maybe, but I feel like, especially in a 5 furlong turf race where any little spot of trouble could spell no chance, Super Brady's going to be able to, get that beneficial wide trip that you talked about, 2 or 3 wide, staying in the clear, staying in touch, and hopefully being able to pounce and get the money. The other one I did want to mention, though, number 8, Tomato Bill, comes out very strong on pace figures. And I just thought it was interesting. The lone turf try was at the stakes level. This one could prove best of speed, and we know how dangerous that can be in these 5 furlong turf races. I was going to call it 9-8 on the A line, just like that, and try to get out of here with those.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the 8 if you didn't bring it up. Seeing 4-wheel drive on the first time trying to take the turf is quite a tall task. So, the hesitation that I had was, if this one was meant to be on the turf, you'd think they would have gone it back after the 4-wheel drives smacking him more or less, but I see the case fully. And, I'm always about cross promotion. EV police, we need to be talking to Elon about electric vehicles here, because there's Twitter cross pollination just ready to start going.
If you can get us Tesla as a client, JK may like drop out of society and just build a statue of you in gold.
Oh my God. That man in that road trip, I still laugh and think about like him sitting out of an Outback Steakhouse with a blooming onion on the passenger seat while he's waiting for that thing.
Oh, that was amazing. For those who missed that one, he got the wrong kind of Tesla, so he had to like charge every 6 hours. And oh, by the way, for folks that didn't know, he had his normal car perfectly fine in the garage at home. He wanted to be a big shot and be rocking around in the Tesla. And then we got to just mock him ceaselessly about, sorry.
What was it, an 18-hour road trip?
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Okay, we have to get out of here. The next gig is calling, as folks may have heard or seen there. Really quick, do you have a Preakness pick for us?
I don't. Sorry. I'm doing that after this. So, we'll make it quick. Let's do it.
Excellent. Good. You can't get analysis like this just anywhere. You're now obligated to tweet out your Preakness pick, like in a retweet of the show later. Can you do that for us?
You got it.
Thank you, Drew, so much. Thank you also to Michelle Yu. Thanks to our founding partners, 10 Strike Racing and the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. Thanks to all for listening and viewing and supporting us, making these shows fun to do. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is this guy. Our chief creative officer is that guy. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your Preakness photos.